We're always swiping, tapping, or logging in these days, right? It's so easy to think of finance purely in terms of apps, instant transfers, and digital algorithms. But the foundation of our modern financial world, it was built brick by brick, decade by decade. So let's dive into this explainer and crack open a fascinating time capsule to explore the incredible roots of American banking.
Rather than just giving you a dry timeline, we're going to do something a bit different. We're going to use a single vintage magazine to zoom backwards through history. Think about it for a second. What can one single publication from September 1950 really tell us about the roots of American finance? Well, it turns out it's an absolute wealth of information. This isn't just some dusty collection of old articles. It's a literal window into the priorities, the anxieties, and the massive growth of mid-century America. What we have here is the September 1950 issue of Banking, which was the Journal of the American Bankers Association. The incredible aerial map on the cover boldly highlights the locations of main banking offices right in Lower Manhattan, literally mapping out the geographical heartbeat of mid-century financial power. It just sets the perfect stage for the stories hidden within its pages. Here is our roadmap. We'll start with a letter from George Washington in 1793, which leads us to the founding of Washington Trust in 1800. From there, we'll hit the establishment of Seattle First in 1870, the formation of the ABA in 1875, and bring it all the way back up to our 1950 magazine. Section 1. The 1875 Diamond Jubilee. As this 1950 retrospective points out, 1875 was a wildly chaotic era. The language they use in the magazine is just fascinating. Financial circles were reeling from a time where, quote, a man might be rich at sunrise and a pauper at sunset. I mean, it was literally the Wild West of finance. And this extreme volatility, it's exactly what prompted a group of bankers to finally meet up in Saratoga Springs to establish the American Bankers Association. They desperately needed to create a high standard of banking service and just, bring some order to the total chaos. And that push for standardization, it quickly spurred innovations that we still recognize today, like American Express traveler's checks, which originated in 1891. America was rapidly expanding. People were traveling way further, and frankly, carrying huge wads of cash was super dangerous. These checks were a direct response to a rapidly changing society. Now, speaking of the 19th century, the magazine shares this amazing little anecdote that perfectly nails the concept of compound interest. Just to show how much patience pays off, they tell the story of a $10 deposit made way back in December 1842. A guy deposited it for his son at a Massachusetts savings bank. Now, at that time, accounts were paying a whopping 8% interest. That single $10 bill sat completely untouched for over a century, just growing and growing, until it reached $990 by 1950. Talk about a fun, tangible reminder of why people place their trust in these early institutions. Section 2. Mid-century bank marketing. So by 1950, banking titans were really starting to flex their global muscles. You've got Chase National Bank advertising as a bank for New York, the nation, and the world, showcasing this massive globe. And then Bank of America is over there heavily promoting its international department. In that newly interconnected post-WW2 world, these banks were aggressively marketing their global reach to American businesses. But, it wasn't just banks advertising their sheer size. Take a look at this fascinating piece from the Bell telephone system. They were pushing a really compelling narrative of what they called a business democracy. They proudly touted that out of their 970,000 stockholders, 200,000 of them were actually Bell telephone employees. In the ideological climate of 1950, highlighting that kind of widespread democratic ownership by everyday workers, well, that was a highly strategic marketing message for a major corporation. Meanwhile, regional institutions were selling the story of massive local expansion. Seattle First National Bank ran an ad celebrating their local roots. They marveled at how, when they were founded in 1870, the entire Washington territory had a population of barely 24,000 people. But by the time this magazine went to print in 1950, that territory had exploded into a state with 2.5 million people. They basically tied their bank's credibility right directly to the phenomenal success of their home state. Section 3. America's oldest community bank. Now, to really find the truest roots of American banking, we actually have to jump way back. Buried in an article inside our 1950 time capsule, there's this incredible quote from a 1793 letter written by George Washington. He was writing about the newly planned Capitol, and he says, "Whatever our present condition,
We have vanity enough to look forward to a better. That single sentence perfectly captures the relentless American optimism that absolutely fueled the creation of our earliest financial institutions. And get this, just 7 years after George Washington penned that letter, an institution was founded in the year 1800. What's truly wild is that this institution didn't just survive the chaotic 1800s or the Great Depression or those mid-century shifts we just talked about. It is actually still operating today. That institution is the Washington Trust Company. Founded in Rhode Island, it officially holds the prestigious title of the oldest community bank in the United States. It sits right at the top of the records for America's oldest active banks. This right here is where the story of community finance in the nation genuinely begins. To really put their history into perspective, Washington Trust holds the unique distinction of being the very first bank to print money bearing George Washington's likeness. But they definitely haven't just rested on their laurels. Today, they've seamlessly bridged the gap from dusty paper ledgers to the modern digital era, offering cutting-edge personal banking, commercial real estate financing, and full-scale wealth management. And despite being well over 2 centuries old, they absolutely dominate modern metrics of success. They aren't just surviving, they're thriving. They consistently win massive awards, like being named a Forbes Best in State Bank and landing a spot on American Banker's Best Banks to Work For. In fact, they've been named one of the best places to work in Rhode Island for 13 consecutive years. Plus, they've adapted to modern threats, earning the AARP Bank Safe Trained seal for their frontline staff dedication to stopping fraud. So by peeling back the layers of this one 1950 magazine, we've traveled on a pretty remarkable journey, haven't we? We went from the aggressive global marketing of the post-war boom back through the volatile Wild West frontier days of 1875, all the way back to the optimistic days of 1800 with the nation's oldest community bank. It just brilliantly illustrates how deeply finance is woven into the broader American story of growth, stability, and constant innovation. And that leaves us with a really fascinating thought to chew on. As physical bank branches continue to give way to mobile apps, decentralized finance, and AI, what's going to be the physical time capsule of our era? When future historians look back from the year 2100, what artifacts will they uncover to understand the financial innovations we're experiencing right now? It's definitely something to think about the next time you tap your phone to pay for a coffee.